My grandmother and I had always been close, spending countless weekends together throughout my childhood, baking cookies, working in her garden, and listening to stories about her life before any of the grandchildren were born. When she passed away peacefully in her sleep at 91, the entire family gathered for her funeral, followed by the reading of her will just a few days later. I expected the estate to be divided evenly among her children and grandchildren, the way most families handled these situations. Instead, the attorney read that my grandmother had left her entire estate, including her house savings and a small investment portfolio, directly to me, with only a brief, handwritten note attached simply stating that I would understand why once I looked closer. The room went completely silent for a moment before my Aunt Linda stood up, visibly furious, demanding to know what I had done to convince my grandmother to cut everyone else out of her will. I sat there stunned, having no idea myself why she had made this decision, feeling the weight of everyone's suspicious stares directed straight at me. In the weeks following the will reading, my relationship with most of my family fell apart almost overnight. My Aunt Linda stopped speaking to me entirely, while my cousins whispered behind my back at every family gathering. I still attended out of obligation. Some relatives suggested I had manipulated my grandmother during her final years, perhaps taking advantage of her age to influence her decisions for my own benefit. The accusations stung deeply, especially because I genuinely had no idea why she chose to leave everything to me instead of dividing it fairly among the entire family. I tried explaining that I was just as confused as everyone else, but my words seemed to fall on deaf ears, drowned out by years of underlying family tension I hadn't even known existed. My Uncle Robert, who had always seemed close to my grandmother, was strangely quiet throughout most of these confrontations, never joining the accusations but never defending me either. Something about his silence felt different from everyone else's anger, though at the time I couldn't quite understand why it bothered me so much. While going through my grandmother's belongings a few weeks later, I found a small locked journal tucked inside her nightstand drawer, along with a spare key taped to the underside of the drawer itself. Inside, her handwriting filled page after page detailing her final years, including entries expressing growing confusion over missing money from her retirement accounts that she couldn't quite explain. She wrote about trusting Robert to help manage her finances after her eyesight started failing, only to notice small unexplained withdrawals appearing every few months that never quite matched what he told her the money was used for. In the final entries, dated just weeks before her death, she wrote that she had finally pulled her full bank statements, herself with the help of a bank teller, discovering thousands of dollars missing over several years, money that had clearly gone directly into Robert's own accounts. She explained in the journal that she chose to leave everything to me specifically, because I was the only family member who had never once asked her for money or shown interest in her finances throughout her entire life. My hands were shaking as I finally understood the real reason behind her decision. Instead of confronting Robert directly with accusations based only on my grandmother's journal, I decided to gather additional proof first. I contacted the bank with the appropriate legal documentation as the estate's new owner and requested full statements, covering the past several years of her accounts. The bank records confirmed exactly what my grandmother had written, showing a consistent pattern of withdrawals and transfers moving directly into an account under Robert's name, totaling well over $60,000 across nearly 4 years. I brought copies of both the journal and the bank statements to a family meeting, laying everything out calmly on the table in front of everyone who had spent months accusing me of manipulation. Aunt Linda's expression shifted from anger toward me into stunned disbelief as she read through the documents herself. Robert initially tried denying everything, claiming the withdrawals were simply loans grandmother had agreed to, but he couldn't produce any documentation supporting that claim, and the matching dates from her own private journal. Entries made his explanation impossible to maintain under everyone's scrutiny. Robert eventually admitted to taking the money, claiming he intended to pay it back, but never found the right time before grandmother's health declined. The family ultimately decided not to pursue criminal charges out of respect for grandmother's memory, but Robert was asked to repay what remained of the money directly into the estate, and he was no longer welcome at future family gatherings. Aunt Linda apologized to me privately afterward, admitting she had let her own assumptions cloud her judgment without ever asking me directly what I actually knew. Looking back, I finally understood that my grandmother hadn't left me everything out of favoritism, but because she trusted me to eventually uncover the truth and use her estate responsibly, exactly as she had always known I would. I used part of the inheritance to establish a small scholarship fund in her name, something I know she would have genuinely loved. If you ever inherit something that causes unexpected family tension, take the time to understand the full story before assuming the worst about anyone involved. If you want more real stories like this one, with twists you will not see coming, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next one.